Astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism back with another video for you today. The ISS Solar Transit. This was my first solar transit that I've ever filmed, and it was filmed on Tuesday, April 23rd, 2019 at 2:51 p.m. local time, and it was filmed in a town named Stevenson in California. It was filmed with my Nikon P900 that has been converted to infrared, 830 nanometers. I also obviously had a solar filter attached, which is required to film the sun. Many people might remember a year or so ago I filmed my first lunar transit, also with my P900 prior to the IR conversion, and obviously without a solar filter. That video has now over 300,000 views and also includes all the reasons why even after filming the ISS lunar transit, I still didn't believe that the craft was up there. Has this solar transit changed my mind? Well, not really, but I do think that this puzzle, at least for me, has become much more interesting, and we will talk about that all shortly. Now, the first issue with my solar transit video is that people out there will likely claim it's fake. I know. Why would I fake an ISS transit across the sun? Well, there's a very easy answer to that question. I wouldn't. Of course. However, that doesn't stop, in this case, the flat earth trolls, the ones who claim I'm a flat earth shill, I'm controlled opposition, I'm trying to destroy the flat earth movement from within, or like this recent video by the new Illuminati, the Infinite Plane Society, claims I'm a charlatan and that my lunar ISS transit video from a year ago was in fact faked. Yep, because that makes a lot of sense. I guess people just can't accept anymore that some people are just honestly searching the truth. So when I say I filmed the lunar transit, I actually did. Or when I say I filmed the solar transit, I actually did. So here's what we're going to do today. First, I'm going to show you last year's lunar transit. To see that entire video though, and the slowed down shots, as well as about 25 minutes of why I still don't believe in the ISS, click the first link in the description and check out that full video. I've also included a small clip of that video at the end of this one, just highlighting one particular reason why, even if there is some craft in the sky, why I certainly do not believe people are in it, or that rockets launch people to it. The clip shows clearly that astronauts and astrophysicists cannot even decide the answer to the very simple question, can we see stars in space? You'll hear Mike Massimo and Don Pettit say that we can see stars in space on the day side of Earth or the night side of Earth. Then you'll hear Neil Armstrong say that on the moon and in cislunar space, which is the 250,000 miles between the Earth and the moon, that the Earth and the sun are the only visible items in an otherwise completely black sky. You'll hear Neil deGrasse say that the only reason we can't see stars during the day on Earth is because the atmosphere washes them out, so once you get above the atmosphere, where the ISS supposedly is, that the stars will be brilliant and everywhere. But then you'll hear Leroy Chow tell us that on the day side of Earth, from the ISS, or during a spacewalk, that the entire sky is pitch black. You'll hear James Riley, Buzz Aldrin, Edgar Mitchell, Eugene Cernan, and many others who simply can't get their story straight. So it's easy for me to reach the conclusion that no one has been to space. So, definitely stay tuned throughout this video for another reason I have major questions about the ISS, but for my many other reasons, click the first link in the description to watch my lunar transit video in full. But back to this video and what else we will be doing today. I will be showing you how to do these observations yourself, so that the claims of faked footage can simply go away. This is much different to claim something is fake when you can do it yourself than to claim space is fake when no one can go there but 0.0000005% of humanity. And I'll show you what else they fake and how easy it is to tell. Now, what exactly have I, and many others, and after this video you as well, what have we filmed crossing the sun and the moon? That's still undecided, and I would love some help. Just looking up and saying, oh, there's a craft and we can predict it, and then saying that that's proof that NASA tells us the truth and shows real video and images is simply absurd. All right, let's start with the lunar transit video. So what you're looking at now is last year's lunar transit. Again, the entire video is the first link in the description, so go check that out when this one's done. You just saw it regular speed, and now we are watching it at a quarter speed. Very interesting indeed. The title of that video was ISS Shape Confirmed, because I'd only ever seen the ISS as a light in the sky, and this was the first time that I actually saw a real actual shape. So let's move on to Tuesday's observation, the solar transit, and then we will discuss the part of it that I'm calling bullshit on. Here's a screenshot of the observation details, And then next here we have the observation path. This is the path you have to be on to observe it. And then lastly we have the actual ISS path. All of these are for the day that I actually made the observation. Alrighty, so we showed up and set up. This town that we went to is about 45 minutes from me. Here I am showing my phone, which shows a time of 2:48 p.m. And a timer on screen shows 2 minutes and 40 seconds until the transit. Remember, this is the middle of the day. The sky was extremely bright. Of course, no one can see the ISS cross the sky during the day, so you just have to aim at the sun and wait. I had the time set so that it would go off, and then I'd know I had 30 seconds from that point. The thing that sucked about this transit versus my lunar transit was the wind. It wasn't real bad, but you'll notice here in a second it was definitely enough with the P900 extended almost fully to cause my camera to shake much more than I would have liked. So it's not even close to as stable as the lunar pass, but it is what it is. Again, one more time, here are the details of the pass, and here's the video. You'll hear me counting down, and I do apologize for the wind. Here it goes. I'm not going to record it on here.
Okay, don't.
14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 2, 1. Wow, unbelievable. Yeah.
I did not.
Yep. All right, so there it was. We'll now watch a few more times. First, I added something called ProDad Mercalli Image Stabilization. I don't know, I'm not very impressed with the stabilization, but then again, I don't really know how to use it either. Also, this time I added a little red bar so you can see where it will start from, and it will start in 3, 2, 1. So there it was, my first solar ISS transit. This time here, I've removed stabilization and I tried to sharpen it as much as possible. Now we're going to watch it stabilized at 100% speed, now at 50% speed, now at 25% speed, and lastly at 10% speed. Another thing I did try because I knew people would ask, but I could never see anything when I adjusted levels, brightness, contrast, etc., or using any filters. No matter what I tried, I could never see the ISS before or after the sun, but I did try. Alright, we'll watch it slow down again, this time without stabilization. First at full speed, now at 50%, now at 25%, and again ending with the 10% speed. So like I said, not as stable and pretty as my lunar crossing, but it did the job and I got the results I was looking for. Last thing we'll do is we're going to zoom in a few times as it crosses the sun and get as close as we possibly can. So whatever it is clearly has the shape like the ISS. Like I said, in a bit I will be showing you how to do this so that anyone who wants to claim that this is faked footage can go do it themselves. At this point though, there are a few things that I have to say for sure. Number one, that this is not faked or simulated for me. No one knew where I'd be doing my observation or even when, and anyone along that observation path could have seen what I did, although they would have seen it a few seconds earlier or a few seconds later depending if they were north or south. And the fact that I planned only one lunar and one solar crossing and each one saw it at almost precisely the right time tells me that no matter where you might be, no matter where you might live, if you simply do as I did, you will see the same thing. Obviously, a lunar transit is easier than a solar because any camera can see a lunar transit, but you'd need a solar filter to capture a solar transit. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the solar transit as far as my observation goes. And now I want to talk about the curious issue that still has me calling fake and placing responsibility in NASA's lap. First off, because some people can't hear me or love to twist my words, I'm not saying that what I see crossing the sun and moon is fake. I don't know what it is. Is it shaped like the ISS? Sure. Is it predicted by globe sites? Sure. But evidence is not proof, and I want to make sure people know what I am saying is suspect in my view. Again, watch my lunar transit video and the end of this video for more, but let me explain one very curious detail specifically. Now, many people will see what I saw and say, yep, proof that NASA is honest. Proof astronauts are on the craft. Proof that the Earth's a globe. Well, good for them. Some people choose to be deceived. It makes them feel better. It's why most people don't want to kill a turkey to eat for Thanksgiving. That's barbaric. But they'll let somebody else do it as long as they can just buy it from a grocery store. That makes them feel better. It's why people eat hamburgers but could never kill a cow. They contract out their murders. It's why people support troops knowing that they kill soldiers, innocent civilians, women, and even children. But out of sight, out of mind. Some people are already 100% convinced that NASA is our heroes. Mark Kelly piloted the shuttle while his wife was in brain surgery. Buzz Aldrin became a drunk because his fame was just too much to handle. And Neil Armstrong became a recluse and refused all public interviews because he was very modest And it makes good sense that only one photo of him on the moon even exists, and that he's never signed any photo of him on the moon at all. Just like it makes tons of sense why Buzz Aldrin, Neil, and other astronauts refused to swear on the Bible that they walked on the moon, even after being offered $5,000 to any charity of their choice. Can you imagine? Jaron, swear on the Bible that you filmed the ISS transit. Sure, I'll swear on the Bible that anything I know is true. Offer a charity of my choice $5,000 and you can bet your ass I'm going to swear on the Bible. But not Neil. Again, to people who already have a deep-rooted belief in space, in NASA, in Apollo, these things all make sense, despite the fact that they simply do not. I read a comment from a guy before who said that if Buzz and Neil admitted that they never walked on the moon, he'd still believe they did. I'm talking about that kind of ridiculous bias. The kind that sees no issue and doesn't even question the lost Apollo tapes of the greatest achievement in the history of mankind. The kind that don't mind that a moon rock given to the Dutch by Neil, Buzz, and Michael Collins in a commemorative plaque was opened and tested and determined to be a piece of petrified wood. Those are the types who will tell you that seeing the ISS pass in the sky is proof of anything. But now I'm going to discuss a major issue I still have with the ISS that is yet to be answered to my understanding. So here's the problem, and I've been pointing this out for 4 years now. First, there is no 24/7 live video from space or from the ISS of the Earth. Simply ridiculous. We are now at Ustream and the ISS feed. As you can see, we're looking at the exact time that the ISS was over my head. You'll see in the upper right that it says Tuesday at 12:10 p.m. and the part of the video that we're going to be watching is about 2 hours and 41 minutes in. So 12:10 plus 2:41 puts the time at 2:51 p.m., the exact time of that solar transit. At first, I totally thought this looked wrong, couldn't figure out why, but then I realized I had to flip the video in order to get a look at the ground like the ISS would have had as I observed it as it crossed the sun. So if you look at the bottom left, you'll see the IBM logo is upside down as the video is flipped. Of course, as I said, I have quite a few issues with the ISS, but for now, let's focus on simply this one. Now remember, this is live video from the ISS, supposedly, as I saw it transit the sun. Also, in case I forgot to mention, that this is in real time. This is supposed to be the camera on the ISS as it travels in front of the sun, and I observed it from the ground. Also, just a quick reminder that this here is the path the ISS was said to be on, the green line. That's the one we're talking about. We're starting at the top and basically coming down the coast of California. And so, as we start to come down here the coast, as we start to move across California here, or move down the coastline, I want you to think for a second, and I mean really think. Look at the ground. Look how close everything is. As we see San Francisco start to appear, you can see pretty damn clearly. With a good zoom camera, you could see some very small details, I bet. But what I want you to imagine for a second is that it was dark instead. Okay, so it's simply nighttime now instead of daytime. Would we see city lights? Ask yourself that. Would you see city lights on the ground? Would you see football stadiums and illuminated towns? Cities like San Francisco, New York, countries like China, forest fires? Or would we see only black? Alright, hold that thought for 1 second. I stopped the video just for a moment so that we can point to a few spots just so you have an idea of what we're looking at. This arrow here is pointing to the Golden Gate Bridge. This arrow here is near where I made the observation from. And this arrow here is the Monterey Bay. So just to give you an idea of what we're looking at, let's continue. Now, getting back to our question. If it were nighttime right now, would we see lights from this camera? Or would we only see black? Now, I always think that when I ask a question like that everybody will have the same answer. I'm usually very wrong as far as that goes. But I think clearly any thinking person would know that we would definitely see lights. What if I told you that there were no live shots of the Earth at night? Why? Here's the camera right here that can do it. I mean, are you honestly telling me that with this camera right here that we're looking at as I speak, if it turned dark right now as we passed over California, that we wouldn't be able to see one light on the ground? Look how close this video is. Man, the reason I think, if you ask me, is because these daytime videos are not real. They are simulated in real time with actual cloud data overlaid. The clouds are actually easy. We have Doppler, we have radar, we have weather balloons and high altitude planes. It's not very difficult to overlay the cloud layer on top of a simulated or sped up video of the ground below. But you know what's not possible to simulate in real time? City lights. Perhaps the San Francisco 49ers are having a Thursday night game. Perhaps the Giants are having a Sunday night game, or maybe they had a day game and the lights are off at night. Perhaps other noticeable lights would be out. Maybe a city has had a blackout. So these so-called astronauts have never gone to a window and showed us the lights below. They've never even looked out the window at night. To me, I see no possible way, statistically, that if this is a real video of the ground below, that we would have zero videos of the Earth at night from the ISS. Now, there are time-lapse videos and images, but not live footage, which would pretty much be the only way you could ever come close to proving what we see in the sky is up there taking photos. And listen, you don't have to trust me or even believe me. If you don't like my questions, if you don't like my skepticism, if you don't like my observations, if you don't like this video, turn it off. How easy was that? Very simple, I bet. It's okay to be skeptical. Healthy, actually. So again, for those who have seen the ISS at night, you know it's the brightest thing in an otherwise black sky. Your iPhone camera would pick up the ISS at night. And remember, it's not even a light. It's supposedly reflecting the sun's light. So it's the size of a football field, about 300 feet, and we can easily see it from the ground below. So why can't the ISS see any lights on Earth from its live view cameras? Why can't it see a lit football stadium in an otherwise dark city below? So feel free to just accept what you're told. That's fine by me. But if you can't understand why I question it, get off my channel. Go back to space camp and buy another quarter that Buzz Aldrin says that he took to the moon in his pocket. Be my guest. There is so much wrong with the nonsense NASA sells you. I don't even know where to begin. I mean, go to Ustream yourself and you'll see exactly what I just said. No live view of the lights on Earth. Now, of course, all these globalists will just say some excuse because they have no other choice. It's always some excuse. Why we didn't go back to the moon, why things that should be aren't. In this case, their excuse is always camera type, ISO is set wrong, shutter speed. But I'm not questioning any of that. I'm questioning live video. As I already said, my iPhone can pick up the ISS in the sky. Why can't the camera on the ISS pick up lights on Earth? It's video. So if you look here, you can always see these daytime views looking below, but look what happens when it becomes night. You see nothing. Look at this grainy footage. It's garbage. Look at all these. Had a bad day here, it looks like, or a bad month. Nothing but blue screens. Sometimes you can get these views inside the ISS, but that means nothing. We cannot see lights on the Earth from the ISS, even though, and I'll go back to this video again, here's a sped up video that we just saw earlier, supposedly from the ISS, showing the Earth below. Look how close this footage is. If it turned night right now, wouldn't we see the lights on Earth? But no, we never get to see any of that, and I've already told you my opinion of that. I think it's because it can't be simulated. You can simulate the clouds on one specific path that the ISS is taking above a daylight Earth. You can have a fake Earth below. It's very easy. And you can simulate the clouds because you only need to know that one location. But when you're doing lights, they can't simulate it. How do I know that that's true? Because otherwise there'd be footage. Where is the footage? Look at these camera shots. Nothing. It doesn't matter which camera view you look at. There's two ISS live streams. One of them is called the ISS HD Earth Viewing Experiment. That's the one that we just saw earlier. But look at what we get. Nothing. And when it turns dark, all you get is black. Why wouldn't you be able to see the lights on Earth? Ever. It's not like just sometimes, I mean ever. Now, I can try and find a fade from day to night, and you'll see that the camera just goes black. And they love to place their little overlays on top so that the globe believers can just say, oh, the Soyuz was too bright. It washes out the lights below. But again, we just saw a video where there was no overlaid piece of junk, and we never saw lights on the Earth below. It's simply ridiculous. But go ahead and do a Google search for ISS night shots, and what do you know? Beautiful pictures of the lights below, but not one, and I repeat, not one live video of said lights. The problem with these views is no one knows when these were taken. No one can prove a thing with these. They are simply CGI and can't be used as proof. We see CGI like this all the time. It's what Hollywood does for a living. Look at these shots here. These are some videos that I took from a show called Air Disasters. I don't know what channel it's on, A&E maybe, something else, I don't know. But does anyone actually think that these are real? No, everyone accepts, everyone understands that this is simply CGI. But why is it when NASA shows you pictures of the Earth below that everyone just assumes that they're real? But they can't be CGI all of a sudden? No, it's because you desperately want to believe. Look how obviously CGI this is, and yet people eat it up. Yum, 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 yum. Give me more CGI and tell me I live there. Yum, yum, yum. I'll believe whatever you say, overlords. Yum, yum, yum. In fact, I'll pay you to produce the CGI. Yum, 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 yum. But it's all wizardry and blatantly false. And if you honestly expect me to believe that this is real, then there would be one video like this taken at night, and there simply isn't. So I call bullshit. Sorry I'm not convinced. If you are, fantastic for you. Go have a beer. Watch Ancient Aliens. Watch NASA press conferences. But don't watch me. Because I've got more skepticism in my pinky toe than you have in your entire NASA-worshipping torso. Now, before I go, let me tell you how you too can observe the ISS, so maybe I don't have to hear flat earthers tell me that my footage is fake. You can question views like this taken by Spanish photographer Danny Quexecte. Sure, I've never seen anything like that. But if you want to observe what I did, it's fairly simple. Go to transit-finder.com. Click Select from Map and find a location that's near you. For example, I made my observation from about here. When you select it, it will populate the longitude and latitude, put in a date range and how far you're willing to travel, and that's it. It will then list solar and lunar passes that are close to you. If there are none that are actual passes, select one that looks close and then select Show on Map, and it will show you the viewing path. Then just find a spot on that red path as close to the middle as possible and click there. For instance, maybe driving to this particular spot on the 140 looks doable. And then when it recalculates, you'll now see that particular pass as an actual pass, and it will be in red. In this case, it's a solar transit, and as I said, if you don't have a solar filter, start with a lunar pass. You'll now have a date and exact time. You can even zoom in and then use the street view function to make sure that there's a good viewing spot there. In this case, we'd have a nice little turnout here where we could set up our camera. Then you simply set up on that day and time, turn towards the sun, and at that time, within a few seconds, you'll see what I observed, in this case, crossing the sun from about the 2 o'clock position to the 8 o'clock position. The other issue I have with the ISS is the passes in the south, because they also go right to left. But being that I don't live down there, I haven't been able to test this yet, but it seems to me in the south that they should go opposite to what I see in the north, but they don't. More on that in a future video. Lastly, I leave you with some clips from my lunar transit video. That's the first link in the description, so check out the entire video for all the other reasons that I still am not sold on the ISS. Here's just a sample. Enjoy. And this looks like a tiny little model in a little black box. Again, that's just my opinion. But let us continue with more reasons why I would never trust liars. I think Eddie Bravo said it best when he said, "I'd rather be thought of as an idiot and a moron for not trusting known liars and crooks and thieves rather than to be a traitor for backing them." And that's exactly how I feel when you watch film like this, which looks terrible, and all the space agencies. This is from Japan, supposedly some lander that was going to the moon. And if you believe this, then you're just simply not capable of looking at evidence and reaching a conclusion, because this is fabricated completely. 100% that's not the moon, and this craft is not flying there. So you can believe it if you want, but if you are simply believing it because men tell you to, and that's not a safe way to go about your business, especially when money is being dumped into the laps of people who just mention the idea of space.
Have you ever looked away from Earth into the black void?
Yeah.
All
because
the
you
time.
can see.
Yeah,
Because you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
You know, and pretty much all the time you can see the stars.
Yeah. It's not
which
a
is
black
cool
void.
thing.
I mean, it's black, but there's all kinds of little polka dots.
There's all the stars there, and the cool thing is about it, you can see it during the day.
Yeah, you can. And
Mr. Armstrong, I do realize that when you were on the moon, you had very little time for gazing upwards. But could you tell us something about what the sky actually looks like from the moon, the sun, the earth, the stars, if any, and so on?
The sky is a deep black when viewed from the moon, as it is when viewed from cislunar space, the space between the Earth and the moon. The Earth is the only visible object other than the sun that can be seen, although there have been some reports of seeing planets. I myself did not see planets.
You don't see stars in the daytime on Earth, not because they're not there, but because the atmosphere is aglow with scattered light from the sun. if you take away the atmosphere, the sun will still be there, but the sky goes dark. That's what the folks get when they go to the edge of the atmosphere, and they're calling that the edge of space. But when you get to the edge of the atmosphere is no longer between you and the rest of the universe, and the stars reveal themselves just as they would at night.
Yeah, you know, actually on my very first mission, we went up and when you're in space and you're looking into deep space and you're on the sun side of the orbit, the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth. But then when you look out into deep space away from the sun, it's the darkest black you can imagine.
Says you can see the stars.
Oh yeah.
You know, and pretty much all the time you can see the stars. The cool thing is about it, you can see it during the day.
And when you're in space and you're looking into deep space and you're on the sun side of the orbit, the sunlight washes out all the starlight, so you can't see any stars, just like here on Earth.
They're brighter, but they're different. A lot of things different about it. One, you don't have the atmospheric distortion, so they don't twinkle, right? So you see lots of points, and you see lots of points, and that literally millions of them.
And we could not see stars.
The sky, of course, was black, but it had sort of a velvet sheen to it.
The biggest visual surprise was just how black the sky was. You have a brilliant sun, brighter than any sun you normally would see, even here in New Mexico. You have these extraordinarily high mountains. We were in a valley deeper than the Grand Canyon. But then you have this black sky, a sky blacker than black, as the old Vidicon expression used to be.
Just the inherent beauty of it, the velvet, bottomless bucket of the universe.
In like just hanging there in a vast sea of darkness, and the most frightening darkness that you could ever imagine.
I've often tried to explain the difference between darkness, when you turn out the lights and it's dark in here, or blackness. Blackness is the endlessness of it all. It's hard to comprehend.
Before, and we were oriented such that we were rotating to keep thermal balance on the spacecraft, and oriented in such a way that every 2 minutes the Earth, the Moon, the Sun, and a 360-degree panorama of the heavens appeared in the cabin window. And that was awesome. It was an overwhelming experience. And we have to realize that in space, without the intervening atmosphere, the heavens are 10 times as bright, stars 10 times as numerous, because there's no atmosphere to block the light.
As I said, there's much more like that. If you want to watch, the full video is linked in the description. Now, one last thing here. Evidence is just that. It's evidence, not proof. If I find Owen Benjamin's shoes at a murder scene, that is evidence that he may have been involved. It's not proof he committed the murder. Perhaps he left his shoes there days before. Could be. Or perhaps months or years before. We don't know. But the other option is that those shoes might have been planted. Even though we have strong evidence that he was at the scene, it's also possible that he was nowhere close and someone has placed those shoes there to throw us off track. The other thing to consider is who is telling us that Owen's shoes are proof that he is the murderer. Is it CNN? Is it NASA? If so, then trusting and believing them is stupid on my part. I'm not saying the shoes don't exist or weren't at the crime scene. They might exist, and they might have been at the murder scene. What does this prove? Absolutely nothing. It is simply evidence. And if the people proclaiming them as proof are known liars, then I simply can choose not to trust those liars. It's the best decision. It's an easy decision. If the ISS or some craft is flying above my head and it can be mathematically scheduled and predicted, that is simply evidence, not proof. You can buy it, I don't. Get over it. Of course, that's just my opinion. Take it or leave it. As I always say, don't trust me. Do your own research. Go observe the ISS yourself, and then you decide. I remind you, as always, to do your own research, because when you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Till next time, this has been Jeranism.
Peace.